So if you're here to listen to someone rant about Rings of Power, you're in the wrong place. I'm here to talk about my love of Tolkien stuff. This idea actually came up when I was talking to some people on the Discord. And we were comparing different editions of Tolkien. And I realized that I own 5 editions. And they're all pretty nice. Not super collector's editions necessarily, but things I'm really happy to have. So let me tell you a little story. When I was 9 years old, which was a long time ago, my mother gave me a box set of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings in paperback for my birthday. And they were the first adult novels I can remember reading. I know I'd read a lot before that. She wasn't giving it to a kid who didn't read. I read a lot. But those were the first real sort of grown-up kind of books I can remember reading. And I immediately reread them. And since then, I've read them, or at least Lord of the Rings, over 10 times. I'm not sure how many times. I lost count at some point. But it's become a real kind of comfort read for me. It's something I can read anytime. It's something I've read many times when I wasn't having such a great time in my life. And it always lifts me up. I have enjoyed it so much that now that I am able to, because I am living in one place and I plan to stay here for a while and actually have bookshelves that I can put physical books in, I have collected 5 editions of Lord of the Rings. And we were talking about it on one of the Discords recently, and some people said that they'd be interested in seeing them. So here's the video. So the one I've had the longest, I'll save until the end because it's special to me. But the second longest is actually a paperback edition. One time when I was interested in rereading it and I didn't want to read the hardback that I owned, I bought these. It's simple. I'm sure you've seen this around a million times. It's nothing that special. But just design-wise, I think it's really nicely done. Yeah, it's got this sort of shiny surface. It's not foil, but it's printed in a very specific way. And it's got these nice rings on the spines. And if you put it together with The Hobbit and the Silmarillion, they all sort of repeat across the spines, these nice patterns. As you can see, I have not reread The Hobbit, and I have not read the Silmarillion. You can tell me how horrible I am as a Tolkien fan down in the comments, because I DNF'd the Silmarillion when I was a teenager, and I have not tried again since. But we'll get into that later. My newest awesome edition, if you go back and look at my video on Wesen, the art book by Johann Egerkrans, when I started looking into his work, I realized that he had done covers for Lord of the Rings. Also for The Hobbit and the Silmarillion, but I think those two are only out in Swedish so far. This is out in English in America. Harder to get in Europe. I was lucky that Amazon in Germany actually had the English one and they shipped it out from America. But these are just gorgeous with foil on the box. The box also has a specific illustration done by Egerkrans, and the covers are just gorgeous. Honestly, they screwed up a little bit, and this is just, it just irritates, I guess, my OCD. See those black bands? See how they don't line up? Why? Why would you do that? I don't understand it. But the typography on these are excellent. The colors are excellent. And the colors that they selected down below for the backgrounds, for the names, reflect some of the colors in the image above and the image on the cover. The front covers have a little bit of foil at the top So it's slightly shiny, not quite as much as the box, but the typography is well placed, so it doesn't cover up the gorgeous artwork. And I just think that Egerkrans has done a beautiful job of interpreting the feeling and look of Middle-earth in a symbolic way, not an illustrative way, but an atmospheric way. I'm really happy with this box set. The next time I reread this, I will probably be reading these. These are an edition which, whoa. So moving up into slightly fancier box set territory, these are an edition which I got primarily because the covers that are on these, and these are hardbacks, the covers that are on them are the covers that J.R.R. Tolkien drew himself and originally wanted to be the covers for his books, but his publisher didn't agree. The box set is lovely with slightly debossed typography, with foil, with the design, with the eye and the ring on the back. And another nice thing about this particular edition is it includes a reader's companion by Wayne G. Hammond and Christina Scull. So this is a step-by-step, line-by-line breakdown. So if there's anything weird in there, or you think that maybe there's a reference, there's a connection to something you just read, you can look it up in here, and there's a lot more information about it. As you can see, it is quite a bit thicker than the books themselves, or any of the individual books themselves. So I'm looking forward to having that on hand next time I reread it. But these have the covers that Tolkien himself drew and the ones that he wanted to be on his books. And the naked paperbacks are not that interesting. They've got, just like the box, they've got a debossed, foiled bit of typography on the spine, and otherwise nothing else. And it says the text of this edition has been fully corrected and revised in collaboration with Christopher Tolkien. So probably slightly different text than some older editions, which were not revised. But this is a really gorgeous box set. But when I bought this, I didn't need it. I really didn't need it. I already had enough editions of Lord of the Rings, but it's gorgeous. I couldn't hold myself back. It's got this linen bound slipcase. It's the whole Lord of the Rings in one volume. J.R.R. on the other side. But the coolest thing about it, and it's such a tiny detail, you see this? This is a window which is cut in the slipcase to show the design on the front cover of the hardback. This is a leather bound and cloth bound. This is the spine is leather. The front is cloth with J.R.R. Tolkien's signature and his symbol on the back, and shiny gold pages, and a book ribbon. What's also really interesting about this edition is it includes a number of bits and pieces, like little artifacts from the world, kind of, which are not that exciting. But what I really love, because I love maps, is the map which Tolkien himself drew. And he apparently always wanted this to be printed with black and red. And in most editions it's not, because printing with red is extra expensive, another color of ink. This is the map he really wanted to have in his books, and here it is. I'm thinking about if I can flatten that out enough, I might get it framed if it's not going to be horribly creased. There's another map in the back. The whole thing is printed red and black. So the headings and the page numbers on every page are red. Of course, the text is black. The chapter headings are red. It's just a really, really beautiful edition. It's also got drop caps. Drop caps are when you do the first letter of a chapter really, really big. The drop caps are also nicely done in red. It's just a gorgeous edition. And because I have low impulse control, I not only got that, but I also got the matching edition of The Hobbit, which is also a beautiful slipcase. It's not quite as fancy. It's not leather. It's not cloth bound, but it has nice foil debossing on the cover. It also has the little window so that this little design shows through. And it's not as fancy printing, but it has illustrations done by J.R.R. Tolkien himself. And in a couple of places, it has, for example, a fold-out map, also drawn by the man himself. It's just like The Lord of the Rings, a beautiful edition that I'm super proud to own. And I got this mostly because, as I said, I DNF'd the Silmarillion when I was a teenager. And that's kind of unacceptable for a Tolkien fan, I know. So I got myself the matching Silmarillion, which will make me feel guilty enough for owning it, but having not read it, that I will read it. They missed an opportunity here. They put this design on the outside, and they put it on the cover of the hardback. Why they didn't make a little window like on the other two, I don't understand. But this is also just gorgeous. But like The Hobbit, it is a simpler printing. It's not printed in red and black or anything like that. And it doesn't come with many extras. It does have a fold-out map in the back, which is the same map from The Lord of the Rings, just smaller and not removable. It's attached. But also with a ribbon bookmark and the whole thing done in blue, so that when you put them all together, they are quite beautiful. So last but not least is the first fancier book I ever bought for myself. I've had this for, I don't know, 15 or maybe 20 years. It's one volume of Lord of the Rings, hardbound with a bookmark ribbon. It was printed to commemorate the birth of J.R.R. Tolkien. It's the centenary edition. It's not very practical for reading. I did actually read it once. It basically is so heavy it requires that you read it with the help of a table. But the special thing about it, or at least to me special, is that it's illustrated by Alan Lee. You can see one of his illustrations there. Alan Lee basically became the production designer for my head cinema. For me, Alan Lee's illustrations is what Middle-earth looks like. At least very, very good for the things in Moria and Mordor and all of the darker, less pleasant places. His style is watercolors, so there's a very ethereal feeling to everything. It all feels like it's kind of floating, and that left a permanent visual impression in my mind. That is, to me, when I imagine a scene in Middle-earth, I imagine it was illustrated by Alan Lee. So I absolutely love this edition. The naked paperback is linen bound with a little gold. Not super impressive, but it's a pretty book. The main thing for me is the history of it for me personally. First fancy book I ever bought, and Mr. Alan Lee's beautiful, beautiful illustrations. So I'm super happy to have it. So that's my modest Lord of the Rings Tolkien collection. Let me know what editions you've got down in the comments and which ones you might be interested in getting in the future. I would like to host a Lord of the Rings read-along. I never realized until I started this channel how many people have not read it. They're fantasy fans, but they've never read Lord of the Rings, which seems bizarre to me, but I understand younger generation, really old books, but they are better than the movies. I promise you. So I will be hosting a read-along. I haven't planned anything concretely yet, but keep an eye out for it because I would like so many more people to read it. And I'm sure there are lots of Tolkien fans who would love to read it again. So as always, keep reading awesome books, and I'll see you next time.